Hi, gang. This is Michael Pierce, and this is Just for My Players. Okay, so for the upcoming campaign, I wanted to move away from squares for our movement purposes because moving diagonally tends to be a bit more generous for how far you can actually move. It was my original intent to go to hexagons because then everything would be mathematically equal. Every movement from one hex to the next would be 5 feet, which is perfectly fine, right? But I had a player push back saying he couldn't see the hexagonal grid for whatever reason. So I played around with the idea of moving to a gridless system, and that way all measurements would be perfectly accurate all the time. However, I had another player saying he needs a grid of some freaking kind. So, the compromise. The compromise is that I'm going to be adapting a rule from Pathfinder. And in Pathfinder, every second diagonal movement on a grid of squares costs 10 feet of movement, or 2 spaces of movement. Without further ado, I'm going to demonstrate what that exactly looks like. Okay, so I have Roll20 open. I'm running like a small example game. You can see like 4 characters here out on the grid, and I'll show you what this is going on about. Okay, so getting out the ruler, you can see that each square of movement is still 5 feet like normal as long as you're moving horizontally or vertically. And at first you might think, well, there's no difference moving diagonally. That's still 5 feet. However, if Fiona were to move completely into Zane's space, you'll see that the count goes up to 15 feet, or 3 squares of movement. So every second space of diagonal movement, and let's get rid of that, every space of diagonal movement counts as 2 spaces. So you can see here that just moving along 4 different spaces counts as 6 spaces of movement, or 30 feet of movement. Is this accurate for how far you're actually moving still? No, this is actually kind of penalizing. However, it's a nice in-between just to help make sure that that the movement and the turn still goes at a rather rapid clip. I mean, I'm not going to fault 5e too much for making every diagonal movement 5 feet regardless, just because people want to go. People want to make this happen. Still, it was starting to bug me, which is why we're going to pivot to this. Now, there's a couple of caveats. The ruler on Roll20 doesn't seem to, it will not remember how far you moved from the last time you moved. Like, if I move Dawn over here, it'll measure out 25 feet of movement because I moved diagonally once to get to this new space. But then, if I were to move again, it'll only count my diagonal movement once again, which means I got some extra movement there. So instead, what I want people to do is just kind of measure out what they want to do. That way they see how much movement actually costs the whole way. Like, say there was, say Zane was standing there and Dawn wanted to smack him but run away. That way we can keep movement consistent from turn to turn. Okay, so anywho, that's what I wanted to run you guys through today, was the modest change. We're keeping our squares. People in our group were quite vocal. Squares are in. All right, so with that being said and done, I look forward to starting up this game probably early November. I still want to get through our Halloween event with Kids on Bikes. And until then, see you all later. Bye.